Well, there's wires in the middle of it, and that's how you could tell. You could catch the North Star to know that you were aligned correctly.
It's just really, really crazy.
I'm gonna go check.
It is amazing.
Since the door's still working, though, I'm gonna go see if I can actually push it open with one finger. It takes a little more than one finger. Yeah, this is a pretty heavy chunk of rock.
It's
but you're not a child. Maybe a child could do it.
Yeah,
it's the center. It's the center of gravity.
Yeah.
Your center of gravity's too high.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's the problem.
Yep.
All right.
Well, now the great thing about the construction, by the way, I know we haven't said it yet, or we alluded to it a little bit actually, is that Ed had built a tower for himself. It was only 2 stories high, but he built that on the property, and he lived in the 2nd floor because we talked about ringing the bell twice to get him to come down. That's where he lived.
Yeah.
And as Devin was saying earlier, everything is so well made that the seams don't allow light through. So he carved everything so smooth and aligned it so well that you don't get a breeze through it, basically.
Yeah.
I heard, by the way, a little digression here. I heard that his family back in Latvia were actually stonemasons.
I did hear that.
He actually worked as a mason himself.
I did see the accounting of that, so I think that's probably where he learned the trade.
Yeah.
But he perfected it when he was in Florida.
And it seems like was just a bit of an obsessive compulsive kind of guy.
He might have been, actually.
If I was building my own castle, I don't think I would have to have every scene be perfect.
I can't even build a snow castle before I get bored and quit. So you've got to be just really focused.
I think if you're building a place that you're living, you're going to be a little more.
You're not going to cut corners.
No, I think if you're building a place that you're going to live in, especially like in the winter, even though it is Florida, I have been in Florida in the winter. It's not cold like we would say cold, but you don't want to be sleeping outside.
Yeah.
So I think you would do all you could to try and make the seals.
Yeah.
But for that to continue out throughout the entire campus of the Coral Castle is interesting to me. It's one thing to say, his room was really well sealed. Well, of course his room is really well sealed because who wants scorpions and cockroaches? Yeah. But to say also the walls were perfectly sealed, that is a big wall, So I think for me, that's where that comes in, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, and also it should be noted that the construction is rock solid because even Hurricane Andrew did a bit of damage.
It was they said it was like a almost direct hit of the hurricane,
and nothing moved.
Nothing.
Yep.
And again, these are several ton stones, but obviously well laid, and he built it all. It's a style of masonry or stone masonry. It's called Cyclopean masonry. And that's where you don't actually use any mortar. So most of us know, you have a brick house and it's got mortar between all the stones. This has no mortar. There's no nothing. It's literally just the weight of the stones so well fitted together that it holds it all together. This is what some of the ancient walls that you see that are historical were built using that style.
This is starting to get into my ancient aliens liking.
I know. Well, and in Peru, the Incas had that same sort of thing. You don't see any evidence of mortar at all. But
and they were perfectly square.
Yep.
Oh, they did some.
Well, there were some that weren't exactly square, but they fit together so well.
Well, these guys, that's true.
Yeah. Well, here's one other odd thing that about it is Ed didn't actually call this place Coral Castle. He called it Blackgate.
Weird.
It wasn't until after he died, the property sold. Somebody in the family inherited it, and I think the guy lived in Michigan, and he didn't want it.
Yeah, he sold it to somebody
and so he sold
Illinois.
it to somebody else who, it sounds like, didn't even realize that this stuff was on the property when they bought it.
Yeah.
And then they realized it could be a tourist attraction, and then they changed the name to Coral Castle. It's actually on the Registry of Historic Places, but it's under the original name of Blackgate Park.
Oh, I thought it was changed in 2011.
The registry portion?
Yeah.
Well, it might have been. I had a hard. I was really trying to track where and why the name got changed, and again, it was really dicey to figure out why they did it and how they did it. But I know on their on the official website, they say it's still listed as Blackgate.
Oh, okay. Well,
so now they might not have updated their stuff. They also say that he was engaged to Agnes Scoffs. So maybe they're not too worried about it.
Babaman is meticulous about finding out about the history of this place as we've been.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to say, for somebody that was a nice little windfall for somebody to be able to just sort of luck into that place, because I imagine you can make some money off a tourist attraction like this.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's enough about Ed, and
Yeah.
it's probably enough to start off with of kind of getting an idea what Coral Castle looks like.
Yeah.
Giant, several-ton stones.
Of course, pictures on the website.
Yep, we'll have at least
Or
one
just,
or two.
you know, Google.
Yeah,
Oh.
and Google it. There's tons of images on Google.
If
but
we're going to talk about theories, do we need to squeeze back into the Wayback Machine and go back to 2014?
oh yeah, we're there.
Oh, okay.
We're there. We're back.
Okay.
Woohoo.
Oh, okay.
That was easy.
Oh, so we weren't really in Florida in the 1950s?
No, we were.
And
But while
could
you
just
two were
nap in
talking
between?
and you were eating your
Oh.
snacks, I
Transported us back. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
we time machined there, but transported back. Got
yes.
it. Okay,
Yep.
got
Yep.
it.
All right,
We're
cool.
mixing. We're
Okay,
mixing.
that's fine.
All right. So I mean, we talked about the fact that Ed was a little guy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the stone that Coral Castle is built out of, they say that it is 1,100 tons of stone
Yep.
that he erected, that he carved.
A lot of big
So
slabs of rock.
Well,
that's a lot of rock for one little guy.
Some of it they said was quarried like right out the back of his property, right? I don't remember which property. If it was
the new
first one,
property.
it
Second
was the new
property.
one.
Yeah, the
that
new
might have
property.
been. I wonder if that's why that must have played a factor in his reasoning to buy the new place. He had a place where he
I
could
can
quarry the
imagine it
rock.
would.
Yeah, that must have been a big factor.
So I guess that's a little bit of a side note to add
Yeah.
to the understanding of this whole thing.
And I think we talked a little bit about Ed was very secretive and he didn't tell people how he built all this stuff. People would always ask him, and this will go right into our first theory, which is that Ed discovered the secret of the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, by the way.
He said. That's what
do
he
you
said.
think-
Yeah.
Do you think Ed maybe had a Wayback Machine too?
Man, did everybody have one of these?
Not everybody.
I swear that the guy that I bought this from said it was one of a kind.
Well,
I also paid
Was he
20
wearing a-
bucks for it.
Yeah.
Fez
No.
and
Yeah, he was kind of weird. Kind of a goofy
that
guy.
Yeah.
Well, Ed said that
Oh.
he had discovered the secrets of the pyramids.
Yeah.
And that's all he would ever tell people when they would ask him how he was doing it. Again, he wouldn't give out a lot of information, but the only thing he would say besides the secrets of the pyramids was that he understood the laws of weight and leverage well.
Yeah.
Now, did
That's
he-
just like,
write a pamphlet to that effect? Or?
yeah, he did, but still didn't explain exactly how he used weight and leverage.
Yeah, he kind of kept it under his hat a little.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
would.
Yeah, because if I discover a secret, I'm not going to tell anybody.
Right.
Yeah. But there
Use it for myself.
Yeah.
But there does happen to be a guy who's alive right now today who has figured a bunch of this stuff out.
Mr. Wally Wallington.
Wally Wallington,
Yeah.
who
Yeah, do a Google.
fortuitously lives in Michigan.
Flint, Michigan. Which it turns out that both Devin and I have relatives living in.
Yeah,
over
and
there
I
now.
guess weren't we earlier saying that maybe we thought that this guy's family was maybe in Michigan?
Yeah,
That he had a
I
little bit of
believe it was
family.
Michigan was where the distant relative who
Well,
inherited
Yeah.
the property was.
There you go.
Yeah, there's always a Michigan connection. But anyway, yeah. So Wally, and just if any of you want to do a quick Google on Wally Wallington YouTube, and you can watch some videos of this guy moving around massive chunks of concrete all by himself.
21,000
Actually-
pound stones.
Really interesting. He moves a barn at one point,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
an actual barn, huge little,
without
huge little.
machinery.
No, he's using
No.
2x4s and counterweights.
and some rocks.
And some
Literally.
little
Yeah,
rocks.
pebbles, little small pebbles,
Little
and
rocks,
stuff
and
like
he's just
that.
leveraging things
Yep.
around, and it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
guy's pretty ingenious.
And usually we make fun of people like this on the show.
Yeah.
It's tongue-in-cheek loving. We make fun of these people, but this guy, we all kind of sat around watching the video, really ready, I think, for all of us to be like, "Oh, this is dumb," and we got further into the video and we were like, "Wait,
That totally makes sense.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
that totally
that
makes
works.
sense. Yeah, Wally thinks that he has
Man.
figured out how the ancient Brits managed to put up Stonehenge.
which is
And he actually gives a visual demonstration of himself by himself putting a
Successfully.
massive
Single-handedly.
20,000 pound obelisk and standing it up into a hole in the ground. All
And
by himself.
he was moving a several-ton block. He
Yeah.
said he could move it 300 feet in a day.
No, in an hour.
In an hour.
300 feet
Was it an
easy.
hour?
Oh
I
my
thought it was
God.
a
Yeah,
day.
it was an hour, 300 feet in an hour. He says it's a massive block, and he's using 2 small round stones. He can basically scrooge it back and forth over these
And
stones.
just pivot it.
And just pivot it on these 2 different stones.
Now we should go ahead and make sure that everybody knows that at least in these videos, everything he showed when he was scooching these stones, he was doing it on flat concrete.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
That helps.
suppose that it would be way harder to do on a gravel path
Yeah.
or grass or something.
Yeah.
But he has that other ingenious method. It's at the beginning of the video. He built this thing out of wood that is basically, so if you take he had this massive chunk of concrete that was like a rectangular chunk of concrete, but it was square if you look at it on end. And so if you take, so let's say that is let's say 3 feet on one side. Then he basically built a structure, and it's got these semicircles, and the distance around the radius of that thing for each one of these semicircles is also 3 feet, same as the rock, right? And the stone he's making. And basically this thing is a whole series of these semicircles pointing upwards. And he was just rolling that thing across that, a massive, massive chunk of square concrete. And he was just rolling it right across there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
All by
was-
hand.
It was, yeah.
With a very simple push.
Yeah, I know. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
It really, it's disturbing. And
Yeah.
I believe I believe he said at one point, I'm going to do this without any mechanical machinery.
Yeah.
Is that the
Yeah.
phrase he used?
Yeah, no machinery. Yeah.
And it's 2x4s and a couple of rocks.
Yeah.
2x4s and some concrete weights.
Yep,
Just
it's-
using weights and stuff. And
Yeah,
really, it's really cool.
And if Ed used that same technique, that would explain how he moved all these huge stones and how he levered them into place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If this technique is also what the ancient Egyptians used, which currently modern science thinks that they just did it all the hard way with thousands and
Slaves.
thousands of slaves
Yeah.
and laborers dragging these things along.
And logs.
And logs.
And logs. Actually, there's a more recent theory that they actually poured the blocks of the pyramids in place. They actually instead of quarrying them and dragging them for a long distance, they actually poured them in place.
Or
thought-
concrete.
They made them out of some kind of
Yeah, they made them out of basically
crude concrete?
kind of crude concrete in place. That is one theory, and they made them on the spot. So they didn't have to drag them. So they still had to drag them up and in place.
Well, but
So-
here's the crazy thing. The pyramids, they figure right now it took 20 years to make each pyramid, and they say that it required a labor force of 100 to 200,000 people.
Yeah.
If they're using these same techniques that Wally Wallington and Ed theoretically might have been using, it would have actually only taken about 5,000 men, which
But
is
that-
a huge reduction in labor force.
Yeah, so as Wally Wallington himself says, it's quite possible that the ancient Brits who put up Stonehenge, it's quite possible it was a much, much smaller crew than anybody up to now has ever believed.
I believe we said when we were watching that video that maybe it just was one weird guy.
One super weird dude.
Yeah, exactly.
What is Fred doing? He's always playing with rocks.
Man.
Yeah, Fred. So what other theories do we have here?
Well, we've got magnetic ley lines. Y'all know what magnetic ley lines are, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Oregon vortex.
Yes, they're the supposed magnetic lines that run through the earth, and where they cross, they have strange properties.
Yeah, the Oregon vortex.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna keep saying the Oregon vortex.
Yeah, the
You guys
Oregon
have been
vortex.
to the Oregon vortex, right?
Yes.
I have
course
not
you have.
actually.
You haven't?
I've heard about it, but I've never been.
You should go.
I should go. It's not that far away.
It's not.
So, according to Ed, he said that he could see the magnetic properties of things because he understood the natural magnetism of everything, and that he saw all these magnetic properties as beads of light.
Oh, that he could actually visualize them.
And so he would see it, and he would know where the magnetic lines were to then use those. There's talk that the reason that he moved Coral Castle wasn't because of a subdivision, but because he realized that there was better ley lines somewhere else, which happened to be his new property, and that's why he moved everything there.
Oh, so it was TV hallucinations. Got it.
Yeah, and that theory that Ed moved everything, That's put out by an author who's got the awesome name of Ray Stoner.
Yeah.
baby. Yeah. Oh, wow, man.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, according to Stoner, he says that's why it was that. There's another author named B.J. Cappy, who is purported to be an authority on grid dynamics.
What's grid dynamics exactly?
Well,
I'm an authority on hat-wearing property dynamics.
Yeah.
You know how I am an authority on that? I just made it up.
Okay.
Right.
Well, and I'm going to read directly from this just so I can explain this properly, at least say it properly. Grid with direct harmonic relationship to the speed of light, gravity, magnetics, and earth mass. All major changes of the physical state are brought about by harmonic interactions of these manifestations. The controlled manipulation of these forces would make it possible to instantaneously move mass from one point to another in space-time.
Really? Such gobbledygook.
The measurements from Coral Castle yield harmonics related to light and gravity. The distance between Coral Castle and Grid Pole A in the north dispel any doubt that the site being an ideal position to allow Ed Leedskalnin to erect the huge blocks of coral with relative ease. Measurements indicate the harmonics necessary for the manipulation of anti-gravity.
Listeners, can I get real with you?
Yeah, I know you can't get behind this one. Go ahead.
I'm going to turn my hat backwards.
Okay.
I'm going to sit in my chair backwards.
Okay.
I'm going to get real with you. I just had to eat a Starburst right now while Steve was reading that to not burst out into rage.
And by the way, this is not product placement. Although Starbursts are delicious.
No, I had to put a candy in my mouth so I would not burst out into rage. Just like, what? What? What?
It's just crap, you know.
What?
Well, like just to take one phrase, make it possible to instantaneously move mass from one point to another in space-time.
I just feel like you're talking about wormholes.
Yeah. I mean, instantaneously moving mass from one to another. Yeah, maybe wormholes. I don't know what else.
Basically, Ed was using wormhole technology.
No!
Yeah.
No, then call it wormhole technology, not magnetic ley line technology.
Yeah. And besides, that's the shortest wormhole I've ever seen. I mean, Christ.
Also, the distance between Coral Castle and Grid Pole A in the north. You mean between the North Pole and where he put his thing? Because if it's a distance thing, then why aren't people all over the place? Sorry, almost swore. Why aren't people all over the place on that same line?
On that same latitude.
Just suddenly, like, moving their stuff like magic. Because really, what she's saying, right, is that, like, oh, it could have magically happened. Like, what, did he just, like, think it? So what happened? Did he, like, have to use some technology to have it happen?
He must have had some special talent because otherwise, wouldn't anybody who pays a visit to the Coral Castle be able to grab one of those massive chunks of rock and just move it around?
And actually, let's be fair, I did read a description of Ed that said that all signs pointed to him being a modern geomancer.
Yes.
A geomancer.
And here's okay, and we're just going to keep going on that. There's other claims that the same people who talk about this global harmonics say that some people, when they walk through the gate of Coral Castle, experience a headache because they're just not used to being in that strong of a field.
Okay, but like, that's the same thing. I'm going to talk about the Oregon Vortex for a minute. I get a headache when I'm there too. You know why? Because everything is built on a weird keel. Like, there's a thing that's built totally opposite. There's a cabin that's built totally opposite the way that you would assume that things are. You walk into it and things roll uphill. And, like, of course your brain is gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Like, I was there once and a woman fainted and the woman was like, get her off the magnet line. She's having a negative reaction to the magnet line. No, she was pregnant and drunk and she passed out.
Pregnant and drunk?
Yes.
Great.
It is Southern Oregon.
Yeah.
Good point. Whatever, but I mean, I grew up there, just kind of one of those things where it's like, I can get on board with so many theories, but this one...
Yeah.
That's why I put this quote in there, because it
you knew
is,
it would derate
well, no,
you.
because it is a bit outlandish and it's very hard to get behind. And there are people who are staunch believers in it. I'm not going to talk against them, but I don't buy it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit hinky.
This
to me.
gives me actually hope for the future, though, because I've been wondering lately about how to make more money. and you know, there really is a bottomless market for this kind of crap. There really is. And so I'm thinking it's time to start writing books about supernatural phenomena.
I mean, it's one thing, you know, one of the theories with the pyramids is this whole like ancient alien technology of, you know, they had to use this thing and it was an anti-gravity force or whatever. I can get on board with that way more than this magnetic ley line. In the way that it is in proximity to the, you know, the North Pole, like it's
stupid.
I think that this might be the angriest we've ever managed to get you on this show.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm going to have to start finding stories that involve magnetic ley lines. Whenever I want to
It's my
rile
button,
her up.
apparently.
No, I'm gonna write the encyclopedia of magnetic ley lines. I think, you know, actually, I really want to. I'm going to really work on this hard and try to come up with some incredible piece of just crap to rival the magnetic ley lines.
Okay.
I want my very own piece of BS out there.
I want you to write
Joe
an
lines.
encyclopedia of magnetic ley lines so that I can write a very honest,
Introduction.
swear word laden introduction, and we'll just see where it goes.
Why don't we, before somebody's head explodes,
Yes.
why don't we move forward?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Let's go to the next theory, which is actually a pretty simple one. It's basic block and tackle.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're like alternating
Yeah,
reasonable
like
and
Looney
unreasonable?
Tunes.
Yes.
Yeah, and
That's
there are, by the way, there are photographs out there of this guy using a great big huge tripod and block and tackle and everything to move rocks around.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is you're absolutely right, Joe. And I'll describe this for everybody. Is there's photos of Ed on the property, and he's got 3 telephone poles, and they're I kind of tried to guess the scale, and I'm going to say they're 25 foot high.
About 25
Yeah.
feet. Yeah.
And he's got a cable and chain and a lever and pulleys, and he's got a stone lifted up.
Yeah.
So
So,
it seems like maybe he was using very basic technology to move them.
But Steve, there's a black box on the top of those poles.
Give me just a second there.
Good point.
Just a second there. All right, so my thing is that, yes, this would allow him to raise them up. What I don't see is how that would allow him to move them horizontally very easily. I'm not saying he didn't use basic block and tackle, but that doesn't explain how he did everything, because you lift it up and down,
right.
but then how do you move it left to right?
Especially the 10 miles, right?
Well,
no, it was
he
on
put
a
him on a
tractor.
truck.
That's all.
Just kidding.
Yeah, that's all known. But you know, but you can raise it up and then set it on like set it on a bunch of logs, like the ancient Egyptians just rolled on logs.
And
you could maybe the guy had a cart, you know, with big old wheels on it. You could set this stuff on a cart and then just move it to where you need to.
I gotta be honest with you, I am bigger than he is, or was, and I could not push a stone on a cart even. That's like a couple tons.
Well, but you know, the thing is, now that I think about it,
Yeah.
he could have also,